Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Mount Healthy City Schools Board of Education, December 14th, 2020. This is a virtual public meeting of the Board of Education in compliance with the Ohio Department of Health stay-at-home order. Could we have a roll call, please, Ms. Brooks?
Yes. Ms. Bryant?
Here.
Mrs. Ellis?
Present.
Mr. Glenn?
Present.
Mr. Kilgore?
Here.
And Dr. Turner?
I am here. Okay. Board members have had the opportunity to see the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda for this meeting?
We move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
And Dr. Turner?
Yes. The next item, item 4 on our agenda, is the reading and signing of the minutes. Minutes of the regular meeting held on November 16th have been shared with the board, and I need a motion to accept those minutes as written.
We move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote on that, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
And Dr. Turner?
Yes. Thank you. Item 5, special orders. Mount Healthy Teachers Association. I'm not aware that we have anything.
They had no updates.
Okay. 5B, communications announcements, public input. Anything?
There was none. Thank you.
Okay. Item 6, Great Oaks Board Report. Mrs. Ellis, do you have a report for us this evening?
No, I do not.
Okay. Item 7, this is going fast. The Legislative Liaison Report. And I have it. Let me just pull it up here real quick. So for this evening's report, I'm going to do something a little different than normal. I am sharing excerpts from a Columbus Dispatch article from this past Saturday. So it says, a long-awaited plan to give Ohio a constitutional school funding system must wait until at least next year. The revamped way to fund public education passed 84-8 Thursday afternoon in the Ohio House with a round of applause. But as the congratulations rolled in from educators and advocacy groups, it became increasingly clear that House Bill 305 wasn't destined for the governor's desk, at least not this year. House Bill 305 attempted to rewrite Ohio's K-12 funding formula to include both property values and family incomes, eliminate exceptions to the formula known as caps and guarantees, increase funding for busing and economically disadvantaged students, and pay charter schools directly. It would have been a massive overhaul to the way the state funds public education, founded upon the 1997 Ohio Supreme Court case called DeRolf versus State that declared Ohio's school funding system unconstitutional. The ruling was affirmed 3 more times in the ensuing years. Even with this recent delay, the proposal faces an uphill battle in the Ohio Senate, where key lawmakers are skeptical about passing a bill that comes with nearly $2 billion annual price tag when current programs are facing cuts. State revenues are down due to the coronavirus pandemic. But supporters of putting this framework into law now, like Representative Fred Strayhorn, a Democrat from Dayton, called House Bill 305 a moral imperative. And then it has a quote from him: "This was never about the money. This was always about us not having the political will to do what's right for our children." So the previous funding formula that has been officially unconstitutional for 20 whatever years that is now, is still standing at the moment, and we'll wait until after the first of the year and see what the Ohio Senate does with this new plan. It has overwhelming support generally, but of course the senators get the final say on this. So that is my report for the evening. Item 8 on our agenda is the report of the treasurer, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. I recommend the acceptance of the schedule of bills for November of 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B is a recommendation to accept the financial statement for November 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. And the third recommendation is to authorize me to transfer the following funds: the $473,339.35 from 004 to the fund 002-9004. It's the Certificate of Participation Series 2020.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Do we have any discussion?
Yes. What are the funds being transferred for?
As you'll recall, we sold certificates of participation to purchasers to fund our early childhood, our early learning center, instead of doing a bond issue. And we are paying that back over time, but also as the building is being constructed, we are moving the money from where we had it in the 004 fund, which is the building fund, into the bond retirement fund to pay those COPS issues off. So we'll be doing that every year through the course of the borrowing.
Okay.
How long clear?
Is the bar? Yeah, that is. Thank you for that. How long is the borrowing period?
You know what? I don't have that off the top of my head, but I know that it's plus 20 years. I know if Jen Burke is listening, she probably knows the exact amount, but it is at least 20 years that we are paying on that.
Okay.
It was $10 million, and then it was instead of doing a bond issue to the taxpayers in Mount Healthy.
Thank you for that explanation.
No problem.
Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Certainly. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Also, Mr. Glenn, if you would like some more information on that, I could give you a call on Wednesday and share some more information on that, or if any of you would like more information on it, because it's happened a while ago now. So I can do a refresher for everybody.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Glenn is our numbers guy anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, item 9, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Hawkins, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Turner. Item A is an informational item, and we just wanted to make sure that we were listing payments for the Early Learning Center. The project was already approved as a whole, but as we have these bills that come in, we're just going to list them as informational items so that you can see where money is being paid out. So one of these bills has come due. It is to CTL Engineering, and they are providing materials testing, special inspection services during construction phase. And the total cost of that was $69,992. So that's just an informational item for the board. Item B is a change order, and I've asked Jenny Wethington to be with us tonight. Jenny is our business manager. This is a significant change order, and so I wanted Jenny to explain it to the board as well as the community and be here for questions related to this change order. So Jenny.
Yes, so change order number 4 is a code authority required change order we're asking for approval on tonight. It is for earthwork and storm revisions per the Hamilton County permit review. So in order to complete our time schedule, the site work had to be performed prior to receiving the permit because the time schedule is very tight. So during the engineering phase, Kleininger's, our engineer, meets with Hamilton County Stormwater and Metropolitan Sewer District, Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, and they kind of go through the whole plan that they have together. And so because they did that, our earthwork contractor, Matrix 5, went ahead and did the site work as it was engineered. And then the permit came back after review from Hamilton County, and they required some changes to be made. Permits are taking a little bit longer now because county officials are working from home, and so we really couldn't wait to get started. So because Kleiningers had met with the county, obviously we assumed that the design wouldn't have any issues, but they did come back with a few things. So for instance, I'm gonna summarize a couple of the things that are on the list. They required these rock forebays, which typically aren't used in schools because they're large rocks that look like a lot of fun for kids to play on. They're about the size of your fist. There is gonna be fencing around it, but they haven't really used that in very many school situations, but they required it nonetheless. So we had to reshape some of our detention basins, which required some excavation and grading. Our storm sewer pipe had to be revised to decrease the maximum water flow. It was designed to have a slightly higher amount, but the county approved it during design, and once they got to permit, they did not. They also required us to shift the sewer tap location to allow for a 2% slope. And the design originally called for a 1.7% slope, and this was acceptable during the design phase that Kleiningers had with them. And yet when we come back to permit time, they required us to go to the full 2%. So after negotiations with SHP and Matrix and Mark Spalding, Matrix did decide that they could take $5,000 off of their bill, and Mark Spalding also removed their project management fee because they know that this is a really significant change for us. So it all amounts to $72,655.66 that we need to do for the earthwork and storm revisions.
Does anybody have any questions for Jenny?
Oh, she did a really good job of explaining.
Okay, great. All right. Ms. Brooks?
Okay, so I need a motion to approve that change order. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any further discussion on it? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Item C is recommendation to approve a resolution to extend the ability to hold virtual public meetings in response to the COVID-19 pandemic through July 1st, 2021. This extension is approved by the state of Ohio and the passage of House Bill 404. Previously, that option would have ended at the end of December, and now there has been an extension if the board would like to approve.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Okay, could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
yes,
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item D is the recommendation to approve Henson Roofing as the approved contractor to replace the roof on the Board of Education building. The replacement roof will be guaranteed for 30 years, and the total cost is $556,880. This was bid out through our bid process. We thought the bids would come in between $700,000 and $800,000 to complete the entire roof, and it actually came in under that by quite a bit.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
Then we had some work done on the roof a couple of years ago.
It was longer than that. I would say it was 5 or 6 years ago, and it was pretty much a patch and repair sort of thing for a leak, a small leak, but it wasn't anywhere near what we have now.
Yeah, I think that was like 6.5 years ago, because it was not
Yes.
long after I got on the board.
Yes.
Are we having leaks now?
Yes.
We have an area that when it rains, it's like a waterfall coming in. So it's gotten to the point where we definitely have to fix that section. It's just not stable without doing something. And the cost to do it all at one time actually saves the district quite a bit of money. What they would do right now is prevent some water and ice as a temporary fix until the weather warmed up a little bit and they could do the entire roof work. So something definitely has to be done on the section that is leaking extensively. And when we quoted it out, it saved the district a significant amount of money to go ahead and do it all at once, and then we'll have a 30-year guarantee.
So you're saying with the holes that are in there now, they're going to do patchwork?
Right now, they're just going to seal them to try to keep ice and water out until it's warm enough that they can do everything, and that's included in the bid.
And wouldn't buckets be cheaper?
We have been using buckets. We've been using buckets.
Well, it's cheaper until it hits the electrical wiring, and then suddenly it's not cheaper at all.
Then we'll have some ice skating possibly soon
Yeah.
as well.
Any additional discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes,
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. E is a recommendation to enter into a service agreement with Warren County Educational Service Center. This is to provide services for our outplaced students with special needs. This is a common agreement. Some of our students have special needs that can be accommodated by Warren County ESC.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
A second and a third. We'll say motion made by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion?
Okay, could you give me a little information about the service agreement? Is there a cost?
It is a cost. It's related to the education of special needs students. So they have special programs for students that we can't meet their needs in our school system. And through the IEP process, it's determined that they needed to be outplaced at Warren County.
Any additional discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F is an exciting one on the agenda. I'm recommending that we accept the No Kid Hungry grant in the amount of $50,000.
Do I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. I see we get those a little faster when it's getting money in instead of sending money out.
yeah.
Any discussion? Dr. Hawkins, would you like to tell us a little more about that?
Yes. So Frederica and her team, Becky, as well as Karen O'Connell, they wrote a grant to allow us to provide food as well as get some equipment for our buildings. So part of it was some really nice freezers and other refrigeration equipment for our buildings. The other part is over $20,000 that will be used in fresh produce. So many of our families, when they have food distribution, they don't get that fresh produce. And so that will be a great benefit to our community. So this is money that's going right back into our community to make the lives of our students better.
That's awesome. Any additional discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
She said yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item G is the recommendation to adopt the Mount Healthy City School job description for the Chief Advancement Officer. And that was sent in a separate attachment to the board a week or so ago.
Do I have a motion to accept that job description?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bryant, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Why don't you explain a little bit about that too?
So we are very excited about the potential to have an advancement officer for the district. Many universities use advancement officers as well as private schools. Their main job is to find funds for the school for different initiatives that they will be working with. And we are targeting people who have experience at the college level in major gifts. So if you're in major gifts, your responsibility is to bring in a significant amount of money to the university. So by having a chief advancement officer for our district, they will be going around to businesses in our area to tell them about the great work that we're doing at Mount Healthy and to secure donations to Mount Healthy school districts to continue our work. And this person, will raise much more than what their salary is. So we are excited by that potential money coming in that we don't have to say to our taxpayers that we need to put a levy on the ballot, because we're approaching this in a creative way so that we can have better programming, better opportunities without a cost to our taxpayers.
Okay. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Excuse me, it's saying my internet connection is unstable, probably the electrical. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item H is the consent agenda, which has been provided.
Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Glenn, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner?
Yes.
And that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, addendum to the agenda, none. Item 11, special orders, none. Item 12, open discussion by the Board of Education. Anybody want to discuss anything? That sounds like a no. Board of Education report. We need to select a date and time for the public hearing on the budget. Ms. Brooks, you want to fill us in on when that needs to be, what the window is for doing that?
The budget has to be adopted before January 15th. And we have usually tried to stick to a Monday, if at all possible, to accommodate everyone.
Okay.
And we usually prior to the board meetings. So let me look at my calendar here. I believe
The 11th?
January
The 11th.
11th. Does that work for everyone?
It works for me. How about
Works for
everybody
me.
else?
And I'm suggesting, since we're doing the board meetings at 6 o'clock, I think we could do the tax budget hearing at 5:30.
Okay, is that okay with everyone?
Did it get there by that time?
Me.
Pardon?
All right.
Okay.
Not hearing anyone say no, we'll assume that's a yes. So that will be January 11th at 5:30 for the budget and at 6 for the regular meeting.
Well, that's in the next motion for the regular meeting.
Okay, so
Excuse me.
at 5:30 for the budget,
Yes.
could we have a vote, please?
No, we need, did
need
we
a
have
motion.
a motion?
We did not have a motion, you're right. Do I have a motion to
Okay.
hold the budget meeting on January 11th at 5:30?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, if we're doing virtual, are we still gonna do this budget meeting?
Yes.
Well, it'll be a virtual budget meeting too.
Yeah, okay, I'm not sure if
Yes.
you ever get the word out to other folks. You know, the family members or other voters. about the meeting.
Well, I'll put that in the, I have to advertise this in the newspaper. So I will put that in the notice that it will be a virtual meeting. And I'm assuming that I can get Michael to, I guess if people want to participate, they could call and then we could give them a link in order to participate. Does that sound reasonable?
Or give them a number where they could text in questions or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll work out those details before then. Any
Yeah.
additional discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Item 13B, motion to select a date and time for the organizational meeting and regular meeting for the month of January. So do I have a motion to have those two meetings, January 11th, starting at 6 o'clock?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion on that one? And that would also be a virtual meeting. Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis,
yes,
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes. Okay. Item 13C, motion to select the following person to act as the temporary chairperson at the organizational meeting in January. So does anyone want to jump right up and volunteer to be the temporary chairperson?
I'll do it.
Okay. Mrs. Ellis is willing to do it. Do I have a motion to accept Mrs. Ellis as the temporary chairperson?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes,
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes. Okay. And then finally, 13D, we need to go into executive session pursuant to revised code 121.22G3. The board will enter executive session for a conference with the board's attorney concerning disputes with the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. So I need a motion to go into executive session. After we have the vote on that, we will leave and go into our executive session. We will come back out of executive session after that, but the only thing we'll be doing after that will just be adjourning the meeting. There won't be any votes taken or any action taken following the executive session. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So
so
moved.
moved. Second,
Okay, moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion?
what, we're just going, we're gonna get out of Zoom first.
You were gonna leave this meeting and then go to the, you had another email with a different link to enter a different meeting, because that one is a confidential meeting with our attorney.
Okay,
So that has to be a separate meeting. So when you leave this one, you'll go to your emails, click on the link for the other meeting. Any additional discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. See
I'll hope
everybody at the other meeting.
Hope so.
Hey, Michael, could you maybe send the link to Carol again?
Yes. Done.
Thanks. Tell Vince congratulations if you get a chance.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, so the newest grandchild that Michael just got today is his son Vince's third child, and Vince was the best man at my son Ben's first wedding, and Ben was the best man at Vince's wedding. So they were good friends all through high school.
That's special.
Yeah.
It's actually this fourth.
His fourth, I lose track. After two, I can't mentally cope with the idea of more than two. There we go. Okay. Keith, we're ready to come out of executive session now.
Yep, you are live and ready to go.
Okay, great. All right, we are back from executive session. It is 7:16 p.m. and all we need to do now is adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mr. Glenn. All in favor? Be sure to unmute.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We are adjourned. Everyone have a good, safe holiday.
Merry
Same
Christmas.
to you and your family.
You too.
Happy holidays, everybody. Be safe.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Same